3 segments. The 4th segment is where we get to interact with the practicing artist who gets to tell us more about the art world. The 2nd segment is what we call the quotable quotes to inspire you to be more with words of wisdom. The 3rd segment is where you get to participate on the program by calling us to ask questions to the guests on the program. Let me also remind you that the World of Art is sponsored by Prince Yemisi Shillong, the legal practitioner, Africa's largest private art collector, grand donor and chairman of Council Omoba Yemisi Shillong Museum of Art. The World of Art will be back after this break. Please stay with us. You here with us, it is World of Art, and today I can't wait to introduce our guest, the person we have for you today. She's a whole lot, and just before we proceed, let me give you a little details of our guest on the program today. Her profile says Professor Chris Funke IFETA graduated with a first-class degree from the Ahmadu Bello University of Zaria in sculpture, I beg your pardon, in 1978, among a set of 3 females to take up sculpture as a course in any Nigerian university. In 1990, she got her first master's degree and doctorate degree in 2002 in African Arts History from the University of Ibadan. She got a diploma in computer engineering from the Polytechnic of Ibadan and has taken pains to study books, publishing and multimedia, including digital art through coding. She was the first female head of department, Taisholari University of Education, Creative Arts Department. She is the past national president of SNA and only woman to have hold that position. She has produced monuments in Benin, Osogbo and Abeokuta as her contribution to the society. And today, she is the first female on the program World of Arts. I am more than honored to have her with us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I was reading your profile, and I must say, there's just, this was like, I had to summarize because the profile was just too much. It was detailed. Now, let us start by asking, how does it feel to be a female, first of all, in this career?
Well, I think that at the time I went into it, excuse me, I didn't really see female or male thing as a problem.
Okay.
Because I grew up with children as a little child until I started boarding. I didn't really know I was a girl. I used to compete with the boys in climbing trees and playing football and the rest, and I used to beat them at it. So it was a surprise when I started boarding, and I said, and then the boys would say, oh, you're a girl. So it didn't really matter going into sculpture. I saw it as a challenge because they said women could not do sculpture. And I felt, what the hell? That's the area for me then. And that's why I went into it. If not, it's ceramics I love.
So I feel like we are going to be talking a whole lot about sculpture because that's what you major in.
Yes.
Now, before now, we were having a conversation, and you literally told me there's a difference between fine art and creative art.
Yes.
What is that difference?
Well, a lot of people don't know what fine art is. Fine art is basically sculpture and painting. That's what we mean. The term fine art is for sculpture and painting. Before, it had a third dimension to it, which was architecture. Architecture moved out in 1990. The other aspect is applied art, which we now call industrial design. But fine art, sculpture, fine art is basically sculpture and painting. But creative art has to do with much more than that. It's like grooming a child to be an all-rounder. The child learns fine and applied arts, studies music, studies dance, studies drama, and all that. So that by the time the child gets to GSS 3, is a complete child, ready to create in any form. And from what we teach them, they will be better architects, they will be better engineers, they will be better fine artists, they will be good in music, anything they take on as children. It does not necessarily mean that they will come and be fine artists. No. From teaching them creative art, they will just be more creative in any endeavor they take, particularly in the entertainment industry, in the areas of music, theater, and the rest.
Okay, so we see your pictures of your work displaying, you know, you're all involved in all of that. So in practical sense, what does it take to make a sculpture? You're also an art educator, so what are these processes you've been teaching, you know, students in making all of this?
One thing about people that are taken in to study art, they look out for art subjects and all that. At Taisholari University, we look out for both. You can be in the sciences and come in to study art, or you can be in the arts, because you need both art and science. For example, for you to be a good sculptor, you must first and foremost be good in mathematics.
Okay.
Measurements, how to take measurements and all. We don't do it like engineers that will be going into different types of calculation to make a bust. You say golden mean is 5 times square root of 2 minus 1 or inverse and all that. No. Just like the market woman or the mama put does not go into saying He, she mixes H2O, which is water, with sodium chloride, which is NaCl and all that. No. But these things are used, scientific principles are used in producing sculpture. For example, you must know about ergonomics. You must know about structures, how to make structures to be stable. You should know a bit of trigonometry for you to be a good sculptor. And we make use of these scientific forms.
So there's this sort of collaboration between
art and science. That's where they meet. They meet. You remember someone like Lamidi Fakeye, who probably did not even go to a university or whatever. When he went to Harvard or so, he was given a professorship. Yes, because there's a lot of science in producing artworks, sculpture. Lamidi Fakeye is a greater artist than Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, because we've seen the sketches of Michelangelo, we've seen the sketches of Leonardo da Vinci. Lamidi Fakeye will put a piece of sculpture in front, all the arithmetic is done in his head, and he produces the work. If you bring another piece of wood, he will produce a replica of what he produced before for you. Without mathematical calculations, you cannot produce a replica. And he does that without sketching. So science and art plays a large part in doing sculptures.
Yes, you know, before now there have been a huge argument between science, technology, art, and even architecture.
The problem is a lot of people, particularly in Nigeria, they don't understand. It comes from the lack of understanding of the term technology. Technology is not science and engineering. Far from it. Technology is a good mix of art and science, which is why you find at Shanghai University, the Department of Engineering is Department of Engineering with good focus on art and design. Check Shanghai University website. In Harvard, you have engineering art, you have engineering science. In Massachusetts, the University of Massachusetts, you have industrial design.
So do you think we've gotten it wrong here in Nigeria? Because I know we have these departments in tertiary institutions in Nigeria, and some schools you see fine arts and applied
art.
Yes, so and some you go, you see creative art. So do you think there's like...
For now, I think the only university that has really moved forward is ABU. ABU has fine art and industrial design. I really have to, I've tried to study their curriculum. I placed it against that of Massachusetts and all that. They still haven't gotten it right. The right mix of science is still not in it, as it should be. Without the proper science in it, you cannot have technology. Just like in engineering department, if you don't have art, technology is like a coin that has two sides. On one side of the coin is science and engineering. On the other side is art. If you don't have art on the other side, you will never have technology, which is why technology evades us here. I think the people who are in positions of authority in high places should go and study the curriculum of these places. Then they will be able to know that industrial design, as is done in Massachusetts, involves art and technology and engineering. We are in a world where engineering is very important, but engineering must marry all the subjects for us to make progress in technology.
That is a video of your work on screen, and that's where we would be talking about after this break. That's the multimedia and coding aspect as which you also majored in. So let us go on this break where we launch the quotable codes and get to see more of Professor Chris IFETA's work. Stay with us. Good to know that you're still there with us. And yes, it is the World of Art on Ogtv. Today, I still have our guest, Professor Funke IFETA, and I don't know if I'm the only one enjoying the atmosphere already, but this is a whole lot. We have with us in the studio some of her work, and we would proceed to discussing her work. Now, we've seen samples of your video, but before then, let's talk about the sculptures behind us here. This looks typically like the Yoruba man, but you have to also tell us. And let me also add that you can call us, the number is on the screen. Please call us and let's have this conversation together with Professor. So, Ma, do you have a name for the sculpture?
There is what I call a maquette, or some people will call it maquette.
Okay.
A sketch of the next work I'm going to do. I did the Lisa B, and the sketch of the Lisa B is with the Alake. So this one is the sketch for Shodeke, which is my next project that I'm going to do. Shodeke is the progenitor of the Egba people, and he led us to Abeokuta, and I think it will be wonderful to be able to immortalize him on our streets.
Right. And let's talk about coding, from being a sculptor to digital artist, how was that process, and why do you think you needed to, add digital arts to the sculpture which you already been practicing for years?
Okay, I'm teaching in a creative art department, and there we're expected not just to do the general sculpture that is known, the esoteric. The world is changing, and we now have to prepare our students for other areas that have come out, because you have to think of how you get a lot of our youths employed. We are training children that will become employers of labor. So you find that when we are teaching creative art, we're going to teach animation. We're going to teach sculpture in industry. If you look at the present day films, what makes for the films that we have today, which is absent in many African films, is the sculpture aspect in films. The making of prosthetics. Many of these alien figures you see in films and all, they are produced by sculptors.
Really?
Yes. The prosthetics for making a beautiful woman into a monster is prosthetics, and it's made by the sculptor. And so I have to get my students prepared for these things. But then, on the other hand, digital art is the current art in the world. You have what you call generative art, art produced by the computer. And so I had to go and prepare myself for my students. I'm not going to teach them. I'm going to guide them with knowledge, how to look for knowledge that will make them to become wonderful artists.
So you're saying in tertiary institutions in Nigeria, these things are being taught? This generative art coding?
Yes, Tertiary is the first university of education in Nigeria, and is the very first one to offer creative art. So we as lecturers must be prepared. If I cannot learn anything now to teach my students, then I might as well retire. When you are in service, you should make yourself useful. Nothing should be too difficult for you to learn. The only thing is, coding was made easy for me because I'm first and foremost, I was a science student in secondary school. So all the mathematics, geometry, algorithm, trigonometry and all comes into play when you are doing coding. But then there are other apps that make coding easy. Because you have what is called scripting for artists. And Blender, the Blender app is one that makes coding very easy. All we need to do is show students the trick of how to get their codes. The engineers have already done the codes into the computer.
So the teaching of art spirits now, of art, I mean, you're an art educator, it means with time, the tertiary institutions are beginning to, learn art from the teaching in the art craft form to an industrial form of teaching now.
It's always been so. That's why you have fine and applied art. The word applied art is one I don't like. It has been changed in many parts of the world. I don't know why we are still using the term. The real term is industrial design.
Industrial design.
And it's industrial design technology that makes a textile designer, not our traditional craft of making adire, that can graduate the child into creating a big industry, working with machines. You know what happened to Ladi Kwali when Kadi went to Suleja and taught her how to use machines to produce works. So the ceramics has to be industrial. If you leave ceramics as applied art, it will not be industrial. We've got to make it industrial. The Abeokuta ceramics died because the government in Ogun State, they don't know what they have in having ceramics department in different higher institutions. They are not investing there. Many of the plates you see on our tables, they are made in backyard Chinese studios.
Wow.
Yes. They are made, there's nothing extraordinary in making wares. And all you need to do is see how Britain learned how to make wares. They went to China and bought molds And from there, they started making their own molds, and today they are gurus in making ceramics. When I'm talking of ceramics, I'm talking of toilet seats and all that. I don't know why it evades us. And when our governors and all these people in position want to set up this type of industries, they go to China to look for people to come and set them up here, when we have experts on that.
So a typical example of sculptures as a fine art is what we see now here.
No, this is sculpture, but this can be transformed into film. There are ways you take the sculpture model and transform it into film. That is the new world we are in. With, you know, you have to create green screen behind and all, manipulate the work, change the position. You know how many frames you make. 12 frames per second, 60 frames per minute in making these works move and look real. And you produce them, which is what we do in creative art department.
You know, we have a lot to talk about your area of specialization, but time is not by our side. You're literally the first woman to do a lot of things that you come across. So your word for our viewers, I believe there are messages they want to get from you, especially women watching. You're the first woman I've had on this program, and I think it should be a motivation to many of them watching. So what do you think, what do you want to encourage our females out there?
In fact, before you even talk of females, I want to encourage parents that parents should not drive children away from drawing. Drawing is the ABC of creativity. And a child's brain will shrivel at the age of 12 if you don't encourage them. So our parents should encourage children to draw. The fact that a child draws does not mean he's even going to be a fine artist. He will be an engineer, but a good engineer tomorrow. As for the women, I think the ladies, sculpture is interesting, but our women, I think many women are shy. But we have women, I've graduated many female sculptors. Wonderful female sculptors in Nigeria. It's just that a lot of people don't know them, maybe because they are shy of coming out and all that. But we have a lot of female sculptors.
Okay, so we have two messages that we can read for the sake of time. First, we have Johnson from Lagos on Facebook. It's saying, can we learn sculpture work outside the school, or must it be in the university or the polytechnic alone?
You can go to a studio and learn to sculpt. It's not difficult. You can go and learn to sculpt in a studio.
How long does it take?
It depends on the child. If you I learned it in the university in 4 years. So don't expect to do the magic in 1 month.
All right, so we have Shade, I beg your pardon. Shade from London is asking, I'm an artist, how can I participate on the program? And how can she join the SNA? So I think you can answer the part of becoming a member of the SNA. Yes.
It's not difficult to join the SNA. She is from a part of Nigeria. And so what she should do is get in touch with that chapter. Her chapter, if she's from Ekiti, there's a Ekiti chapter.
Okay.
If she's from Ogun State, there's Ogun State chapter.
Okay.
So she will get in touch with the chapter person, chairperson, and she'll pay dues and she'll be part of. For example, if she's there, you know how wonderful our Omoba Yemishi Shilon is. Even when she's in London, she can partake in Art World, your program here. Okay,
so I have another question from Because Initiative. Hello, please, what software is used for doing animation and PC, and how can I go about it?
One good thing is you must have a good computer. Because the normal computers, laptop that people have might not be able to carry the weight of computer graphics. So you have to have a good grade of a computer.
Okay.
Then for softwares, I've said Blender is wonderful, but then you have a lot of tutorials in processing.org that you can use. Python is wonderful. You have Python in Blender, you have Python in processing.org, you have Java, P5JS.
All right, we are really running out of time and we have to go. Final words on the show and to our sponsor before we close.
I want to thank Engineer Yemisi Shilon. In fact, I think he's 1 in a million.
Okay.
But there's, I'm Oliver Twist. Like Oliver Twist, he's doing so much for artists in this country. Ours is the first university of education, and our department is the first. It's equipment intensive. please, Engineer Yemisi Shillong, come and invest in our department.
All right, I believe he's watching and he's definitely going to do something about that. For the sake of time, we have to draw the curtain on the program today. It's been an amazing time with Professor Funke IFETA. Thank you so much. And we hope we have to do this again because there's a whole lot to talk about. My name is Miriam Usman, and until I see you next week, the program is World of Art, where we bring you practicing artists who will give you lots of amazing knowledge from the world of art. And don't forget, World of Art is sponsored by Prince Yemisi, Grand Donor and Chairman of Council, Omaba Yemisi Shillong Museum of Art. Until I see you next week, take good care of yourself.